right, let's get this set up here quick. Hey, all right, make sure I represent my wolf pack. What's up? All right, see one person's in the house. What's up to you? All right, let's just get this started, man, because it's going to be a quick live because I got to fold some laundry and my old ass is tired, so I got to just get on with it. But anyway, thank you for the one for tuning in to this live. Basically, this I'm going to talk about the Magnificent Seven group of schools in the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference. For those of you who do not know, that's the conference of my youth. As you can see here, my NC State Wolfpack. I'm an alum, proud alum. But those seven schools consisting of Florida State, Clemson, UNC, Miami, NC State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. Those seven schools are looking to raise hell within the Atlantic Coast Conference, mainly surrounding the revenue sharing. And I'm reading this comment here from Dennis Haiti. I'm sorry, I'm using my cell phone, so I may not get it all. But basically, he references Dillinger's article, the gentleman who actually wrote this story. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of truth in that, and there's a lot to unwrap with that. So I'm just going to give right to you. So shout out to Daniel for pointing that out in the comments. Yeah, so basically, let's go over why we had this in the first place, those of you who do not know. Well, basically, this centers around, you guessed it, money. Lots of money in the form of TV deals. So basically, as you already know, the SEC and the Big Ten have recently renegotiated, well, not negotiated, but yeah, renegotiated contracts with ESPN, the Big Ten, NBC, Fox, with big money deals. Like the Big Ten's being over at $1 billion with a B, and the SEC got a lot of cheddar as well. That's going to, I think they're no longer than 7 years apiece, which means that, you know, they can re-up sooner rather than later. And same with the Big 12 even after losing to Oklahoma and Texas, those boys, thanks to their rather smart commissioner, Yormack, I know his last name, I forget his first name, but Brett Yormack, excuse me. He managed to get a sweet deal with the Big 12, considering that they lost both those brands I mentioned earlier. That's, I think, maybe 6 or 7 years as well, right? So why do I mention those three deals? Because my conference, the conference of my youth, the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC, back in 2016, they signed a media deal. Problem was, it was for 20 years. And which means that bad boy is not set to expire until 2035. It's 2023 right now. So basically, if you take the Big Tens, the SECs, and the Big 12 contracts, right, since they last about, I think, no more than 7 years, what's 7 plus 2, 2023, folks? That'll be 2030. So basically, all three conferences would be going back to the well before the ACC could go renegotiate their original deal. And they may end up doing so twice. So in the case of the Big Ten and the SEC, I mentioned 7 years now would be 2030. All right. So they get to renegotiate that. And then, you know, if they're lucky and if they're smart enough, they'll probably renegotiate yet again right when the ACC begins to negotiate the 20-year arbitrage they signed. That's crazy to me, right? And as much as I love and respect that the Ninja Swat, the former commissioner John Swafford, that was a very bad deal. And I get that he was trying to do so to keep the conference together because Maryland defected to the Big Ten in 2015, I think it was, or maybe it was a little bit before that. But the point is that he got scared. He really wanted the ACC network. So ESPN, looking at that situation like a good business entity, they knew they had the ACC over a barrel, and they had all the leverage in the world, hence the horrible contract that the ACC signed. Now, while it's, you know, Well, and we'll get into the deal in a moment for for ESPN, but that was a one-sided deal that ESPN had to sign, and they've been reaping the benefits ever since. So basically, where does this leave? Well, I already mentioned the background of this. Now, where does this leave the situation with the conference? Now, so before I go on, I'm going to take the time out and define what grant of rights really mean. A lot of these Twitter heads who claim to know the ins and outs of grant of rights, from seeing the crazy comments that they've been making, even to some YouTube creators on here, which shouts out to all of them, the crazy comments they've been making. I mean, do they really know what a grant of rights is? So I'm going to explain right quick. So the grant of rights, what that term means, the blanket term, general term, means that pretty much dictates who owns a property, such as intellectual property rights or an image, trademark, whatever. In the case of college football and the ACC, that means the ACC owns each team's revenue and television broadcast rights, right? Which means that if a member were to defect early, that means that the ACC would still withhold the money that they've been making that particular school makes, because the conference would own that particular college school's rights, because basically, just for say, for example, the UNC were to challenge and bounce from the ACC with 5 years remaining on the deal. That means for the remaining 5 years, the ACC would withhold home games from UNC while they're in the Big Ten and before their contract expires, because of the grant of rights. That means that the ACC owns UNC's rights until it would expire. And that's not counting the exit fee, which would decrease year after year after year after year into it, but still. All right. So I have a couple of thoughts. First of all, I know people on Twitter, once again, and on YouTube been saying that, yeah, they couldn't break the grant of rights. Yeah, they got the leverage, blah, blah, blah. First of all, if the grant of rights was so breakable, as people will allege, why hasn't it been done by now? Why hasn't any of these lawyers at these universities figured it out by now? And look, and by the way, let me just say this right quick. I do not fault any of these institutions for looking into the grant of rights and figure out loopholes, because that's what you call doing your due diligence, right? So I don't have a problem with that. I'm just wondering, do they really think that they're going to go anywhere? I mean, look at that horrible media deal still has it's 2023, so still has 12 more years on this puppy. Okay? No one's going anywhere. Okay? I can almost 99.9% assure y'all that none of those magnificent 7 schools or whatever the hell they call themselves are going anywhere. Right? Now, I would say check back, and Dennis Haiti gave a shout out with that. He agreed with that, and then I'm glad he did, because he mentioned Texas, right? Texas, Oklahoma, yes, they got theirs, but guess what, folks? They only have 1 more year on that deal, on that grant of rights deal they have with the Big 12. So obviously, it's much easier to get out of a deal that you only have 1 more year on than trying to get out of a deal we have 12 more years on. Because that's what they say, what the young folks say today, the math ain't mathing. All right? So that's why I'm saying to you that none of those magnificent 7 schools are going to go anywhere anytime soon. Right? Even if Warren Buffett were to pay their way out the damn conference, that's still, I don't think Warren Buffett wants to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for all those schools to exit the ACC early. Okay? It doesn't make any mathematical nor financial sense. So let's get that out of the way. Let's kill that notion. Now, I will say this. If I'm the ACC and Commissioner Jim Phillips, who I do not blame for any of this, so I feel totally sorry for, by the way, and for inheriting that horrible contract. Great league, but a horrible contract, media contract. I would be worried 5 years within the 5 years within the ending of the grant of rights, because that's when you're going to start to see a more of a groundswell, right? That's when it's going to start the groundswell. Kalani saying that the schools didn't call themselves that, some hack journalists did. You know what? That may be true, but for the sake of a great storyline, let's just go with it. Okay, let's just go with that. That was funny. What was I saying? Yeah, so basically, if I were Jim Phillips, I would be worried, very worried, if things stay the same within 5 years of the current grant of rights deal ending, right? Because that's when, like I said, you see the groundswell of stuff starting to happen. If you think these 7 schools are going to make a noise now, just wait until that time. If nothing were to come about, it'll be quite ugly then. Now, will they look to make moves with 5 years? I doubt that as well. But I'm just saying, just look for that to percolate even more, because the closer you get to the end of granted media rights, the less those schools have to pay to get the hell out. If that makes any sense. All right, which leads me to this. I already explained why none of those schools have any leverage right now, okay? But here's the next question for those 7 schools and for the other fans or people in media, Twitter, YouTube, wherever the hell out there. Why would the ESPN renegotiate the contract with the ACC? Now, remember what I told y'all about the deal. It's a 20-year deal that pays the conference compared to the other three, the Big Two, and the Big 12 is gaining on them, right? It pays the ACC pennies on the dollar, which means that, basically ESPN to own the properties such as Clemson, Carolina, Florida State, the U, NC State. I think I mentioned NC State already, but anyway, I told you I'm tired. Virginia Tech, those entities, Pitt, those entities, Syracuse, those entities, right? Wake Forest, shout out to them. They get to own those entities, some of which are very popular brands, for pennies on the dollar. Now, if you're the ESPN, why in the hell would you renegotiate that? Why would you give up a sweet deal like that? Okay. And also, let's talk about like the SEC wanting some of the schools, ACC schools. Why would ESPN, speaking of the SEC, which rights some of the ACC owned, just like the ACC, are totally owned by ESPN. Why would ESPN, for example, allow Florida State and Clemson to go to SEC and pay more for both those schools, for both those properties? Why would they do that? Why would they do the same for NC State, Virginia Tech, where they can have them for pennies on the dollar? That does not make good business sense. Now, the only thing I would say, caution, is you got to watch for the Big Ten and Fox. They would love to get their hands on Carolina and Virginia, 2 new states. That's what I would worry about our ESPN, letting those properties go away, get away. Even Notre Dame, which is the ACC property except for football, which means that ESPN property except for football. NBC owns the rights for football. They ESPN sure as hell do not want to see Notre Dame go away out of their portfolio to Fox. They certainly do not want that. So there's some give and take there. But again, ESPN holds the majority of the cards in this situation. And you know who I blame for that? First of all, yes, I blame John Swofford, the aforementioned John Swofford, for being short-sighted being asleep at the wheel and signing such a horrible deal out of desperation getting the channel. Yes, I get all that. But I blame Florida State. I blame Miami. I blame Carolina. I blame NC State. I blame Virginia. For not so much Clemson and Virginia Tech for not holding up the end of the bargain. All right. So I'm going to go through Florida State's, Miami's, Virginia Tech's records because those are the three biggest football brands in this conference. Them and Clemson, obviously. But I'm going to leave Clemson out because they've been winning recently. So I'll leave them out. Clemson, you're good. Tiger Nation, you're good. Death Valley, you're good. Let's focus on the other three. First of all, let's start with Florida State. Ever since Florida State's last top 5 finish in 2000 when they went 11-2, Florida State between 2001 up until 2011 won 10 games twice. That was in 2003 and 2010. That's if you're Florida State, that's terrible. I mean, some of those. I mean, in 2006, 2007, and 2009, they went 7-6. Inexcusable. And yes, I know they had the nice run from 2012 to 2016 where they won over 10 games, 10 or more games, including the national championship in 2013 when they beat Auburn. But since that last 10-win season, Jimbo Fisher's second to last season in 2016, they won 7 games, 5 games, 6 games, 3 games, and 5 games. This past year, they went 10-3. Right? Great. They won their bowl game, Cheez-It Bowl over Oklahoma. Awesome. But if you're Florida State, they finished 11 in the AP, final AP poll. Great. But if you're Florida State, if you're that squad, if you're that program, 9-10 wins should be the bare minimum. Given Florida State's tradition, given their history, right? So credit to Mike Norvell to righting the ship for now. But hey, again, Florida State, you got all the expectations in the world in 2023. Y'all asses better deliver. All right, let's move on to Miami. They're you. This is even worse case. We all know, right? Because ever since okay, check this out. If I were to ask you, when was the last time Miami won over 10 games? I bet you won't. I bet none of you would get the answer right. It was in 2003 when they were in the last year in the Big East when they finished 11-2. So when they finished 11-2, that was the last top 5 finish. Okay? The last top 5 finish. As soon as they joined the ACC, they went 9-3 in 2004, 2005. Okay, that's not the end of the world, right? Disappointing to you, but not the end of the world. But check this out. The next few years, man, they won 7 games, 5 games, 7 games. Went 9-4, meaning they lost the bowl game. Won 7 games, won 6 games, didn't go to a bowl in 2011. Won 7 games. Won 9 games, because that's because they're on probation, but they still stunk. They won 9 games, lost their bowl game then. Won 6 games, won 8 games, won 9 games. Mark Richt came along in 2016. They won 9 games, won 10 games. They won their first bowl game under him, and then lost their second one. They won 7 games, lost the Pinstripe Bowl, 106 games, won 8 games in the Manny Diaz, even though they lost the Cheez-It Bowl. That was in the pandemic year, 2020. They won 7 games. Manny Diaz got fired, and then they won a grand total of 5 games on the Mario Cristobal. Again, that's on you, Miami. You're complaining, you're whining and moaning. All that's on you. The ACC brought y'all in to be their early version of Alabama and Georgia. That was what their vision for Florida State Miami at that time in 2024. 2004, I'm sorry. But again, that's just, and Dennis Haiti just bringing up great comments. I'm sorry again. I'm on the phone on myself, so I don't have time to. I can't read them because they go. Those comments go away. But shout out to Dennis for pointing stuff out here. But the fact remains is that got some notification on my screen that Miami is hugely underachieved. I think we all agree with that, right? So last but not least, let's move on to Virginia Tech right quick. So I'll say this about Virginia Tech. Those early years when they were in the conference, they held up more than held up their end of the bargain, right? From 2004 to 2011, they won at least 10 games under Frank Beamer, the great Frank Beamer. That's awesome. So I can't be really mad at Virginia Tech from that standpoint. However, as Stephen A. Smith would say, if you go from 2012 to the present day, Virginia Tech won 10 games only once. That was in 2016 when they went 10-4. They won the Belk Bowl under Justin Fuente's first year as head coach. And keep in mind, this is the same Justin Fuente who, for some reason, thought that Brent Burmeister was better than Hendon Hooker. That alone should keep Justin Fuente's ass from coaching ever again. All right. So I laid all that out. So even if all that would happen, like even if somehow the Magnificent Seven were to find a way out of the conference years from now, do they really have guaranteed soft landing spots? I mean, outside of maybe UNC Virginia, because A, both are two brands, and B, they're two academic brands, and C, that in states that are not yet occupied by either the Big Ten or the SEC, I think culturally they'll fit better in the Big Ten because the academic sides. Who the hell else would want the rest of those schools? I mean, no disrespect to Florida State and Clemson, they're football brands. But if you're the SEC, do you really want another school in Florida? You already own the state of Florida. You got the state of Florida on lock with Florida, even with Florida being mediocre. They still got the state on lock. Do they really want Miami? Miami's underachieving like crazy, right? And do they really want Clemson? Or do they really want another South Carolina school? I know Clemson is great, and Kalani is commenting on that. But I know that Clemson has been great. But do they really? Does the SEC really want another school in the state of South Carolina? And who the hell wants my alma mater, NC State? Does the SEC really want them? Does the SEC really want Virginia Tech? Hell, does the Big 12 either want out of the schools? Maybe just to make get a presence on the East Coast and the Southeast. Well, they already have the Southeast with Central Florida, but more of a presence, I guess. So what are we doing? If you're the Magnificent Seven, what the hell are we doing here? Seriously, what are we doing here? So, to me, I think all of this would be rectified years to come if they start winning. Florida State, Clemson's doing the damn thing. But if Florida State comes to party, if Miami gets the asses out of the doldrums, it may be the other three or four will show up every now and again. Carolina, I'm looking right at you, as well as NC State and Virginia Tech especially. I think they'll enhance their brands and they'll enhance their renegotiating power once everything comes to pass. Whether ESPN wants to rip up the current contract, if they fear losing Carolina or Virginia to the Big Ten and Fox, or not. I don't think ESPN, outside of that, I don't think ESPN is going to make any moves. Maybe they'll make a move 2 or 3 years before this current contract expires. because I don't think ESPN wants to diminish their own brand, right? They already own, well, they already go 50-50 with the ACC network. I don't see them diminishing their brand with having to supplement the losses with the likes of Appalachian State and East Carolina and Coastal Carolina, South Florida. No disrespect to those schools, but you ain't Florida State, Miami, and either of the Tobacco Road schools. Well, the Triangle schools, NC State and Carolina. You're not one of those. Sorry. All right. I think that's all I got. So, more of the story is, folks, if you want to increase your bargaining position, if you want to earn more money in athletics, collegiate athletics, make sure you win. Just win your ball games. Don't underachieve. Don't be like Miami and win just 10 games once since you've been in the conference. Or don't even get or play in only one ACC title game. Don't be like NC State and constantly underachieve. Don't be like Carolina and just be concerned with looking pretty in those pastel blue outfits. Don't be Florida State and beat your chest where you hadn't won crap in a very long time. At least give Clemson some company. At least pull your weight. And don't be Virginia with your hardy-tardy selves and sucking in football. Just win. Be like the late Al Davis, what he always say, just win, baby. Just win. All right, I'm about to sign off now. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you to the commenters. Thank you for the likes. Please see the like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm going to take my crusty ass to bed. Well, actually, got to fold my clothes, take my ass to bed. But until next time, y'all, look for me. Do my shorts every day on all sorts of stuff. I may do some more shorts on this in addition to the my NBA and or NFL stuff. So until then, good night. 06, peace out.